Good evening. Welcome. Before we say anything, I want to dedicate this class to the neshamas, to the souls of the following people who had yahrzeit within this week. Rosa Geisman, Benzien Kronkheis, Rose Furman, Oleg Filianko, and Harry Tanza. Their neshamas, their souls, should have an aliyah, should have an ascent in the heavens above. There was once a very talented artist, a young artist, and he was brilliant. And he really needed cash. And he called up his gallery owner. And he said, please tell me, how were sales today? Did any of my masterpieces sell? And his gallery owner answered, I have good news and I have bad news. What's the good news? You won't believe it. Today a man came in to the gallery and he asked me, tell me, if this work, your beautiful art renditions, when you pass away, will they go up in value? I said, they're going to go up immensely in value. And with that, this individual asked, how many pieces of art do you have in this gallery? And I said, we have 15 pieces. So this man took out a checkbook and wrote a check for $4.9 million. The young artist couldn't believe it. Congratulations. Mazel tov. I can retire. I can stop being an artist. I can just take a big breath, a sigh of relief. What could be better than that? Now tell me, who was this person who gave you $4.9 million for all of my art? Oh, that guy, says the gallery owner. That guy, he's your doctor. My friends, we are going to have an incredible time this evening because tonight we are going to speak about lessons that the coronavirus can teach all of us. How could a coronavirus, which has wreaked havoc, which has sadly left the world devastated, how could a coronavirus teach us anything besides for destruction, besides for snatching our loved ones away? What good, what lessons could we possibly learn from this deadly disease? So to begin with, I just want to put things into context. And of course, everything always comes back to the Torah portion of the week. This week, we read the Torah portion of Bamidbar. Bamidbar means in the desert. Numbers. And we begin by counting the Jewish people, by taking a tally of how many Jews were there in the desert. The Ramban, Nachmanides, he makes an incredible observation. He says, I don't understand. The tribe of Levi, the ultimate, the best tribe, the tribe of distinction. Moses and Aaron and his cousins and their children, they were supreme. They were the leaders of the Jews. Now the tribe of Levi, when they made the census, they were the smallest of all the tribes. They were even less than half the other tribes. Why is that? And furthermore, the Ramban Nachmanides asks, How can this be? All the other tribes, they were counted from 20 years of age till 60. The tribe of Levi was counted from 30 days old. So if anything, the tribe of Levi should be very significant. The tribe of Levi should be a great number. But instead, the tribe of Levi is 22,000 people. That's it. Why is it so? Why is the tribe of Levi 22,000 people, even less than half of all the other tribes? Why is this? The Ramban gives an incredible answer. And this answer will put everything into perspective. The Ramban says, you know why the tribe of Levi is so small? Because as the Jews were persecuted in Egypt, as the Jews had backbreaking labor, as they were whipped in Egyptian bondage, as they suffered, that's how they prospered and grew and grew and multiplied. The tribe of Levi, they were not part of the slavery. They were not part of the bondage in Egypt. And therefore, because they were part of the bondage, they were never slaves in Egypt, therefore they didn't prosper and they weren't fruitful and multiply as the other tribes. Amazing. And this puts everything into perspective. Because you see, there is a fact. And the fact is that this Torah portion of Bamidbar, of Numbers, has to be read before Shavuot. Next week we have the festival of the giving of the Torah of Shavuot. It has to happen. And there are many, many different explanations. One of them is that this week's Torah portion, as we explained, speaks about the desert. When you have humility, when you realize that you're not an oasis, when you realize that sadly, perhaps in certain aspects of your life, you are barren like a desert. You can improve yourself. We all need to improve ourselves when we have the humility, the modesty of a desert. When we are the underdog, when we're whipped, when we are in cruel Egyptian bondage, you know what? That's going to be a growing experience. That is going to make us strong and mighty. The tribe of Levi were not oppressed. They were not persecuted in Egypt. And thus, their numbers were far less significant than the other tribes that had to endure the back-breaking labor, that had to build those pyramids, those towering pyramids in Egypt. The idea of nullification, the idea of humility is so, so important. When a person has bittul, nullification, when a person feels that they have more to do, they need to grow, they need to prosper, they need to make headway. When they leave room for God, then they can grow. And what better way to get the Torah than on Mount Sinai? Everyone knows, growing up, the famous Medrash, all the towering, dominant mountains said, I want to get the Torah. No, I want to get the Torah. I'm bigger, I'm greater. Mount Sinai was humble. And Mount Sinai said, who am I to receive the Torah? And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, gets the Torah on Mount Sinai and transmits it to the Jewish people. If you look in Ethics of Our Fathers, it says, it's a Mishnah, Moshe Kibbul is the Torah Sinai. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. Now the question is, what do you mean Moshe received the Torah from Sinai? Sinai is a mountain. So there are many commentaries. One explanation is the letter Mem alludes to 40. Moses spent 40 days on top of Mount Sinai. But still, grammatically it should say Sinai, in Sinai. Why does it say from Sinai? There's one interpretation that Moses, the most humble of people, learned from Sinai, learned from this mountain the idea of being humble. And this, my friends, this is a prerequisite for receiving the Torah. If you want to get the Torah, if you want to connect with godly wisdom, you are going to need to be humble, like Sinai, like Moshe. My friends, that's why we read the Torah portion of Bamidbar of a desert, which isn't flourishing with vegetation, but which is rather barren and humble and realizes its inadequacies. When a person is in such a situation, when they make room for God, for the Almighty, then they're able to learn Torah, then they're able to grow, then they're able to change the world. And I want to dwell on this because I think it's such an important concept. You see, my friends, let me tell you, it's counterintuitive. A normal person would say, hey, if you are indeed exerting yourself, pushing yourself forward, thrusting yourself into the limelight, you'll get ahead. You know, it's a tough world out there. Comes along Torah and specifically Hasidic philosophy and says, if you are humble, if you are a receptacle, you're a vessel for growth, if you realize that maybe you are inadequate and you need to grow and you need to flourish and prosper like a garden, then, my friends, then you are a candidate to receive the Torah. Rather than exerting yourself and pushing yourself, be humble, be strong. Don't indulge in your own gratification. Be like a desert and leave room for growth and appreciate a higher authority, a higher being, God Almighty. So my friends, in Hasidic philosophy, they give an analogy to this. And the analogy is a seed. If you want that seed to grow, what do you have to do? You take this perfectly pristine seed and you put it into the ground. Why would you do that? And what happens to the seed in the ground? The seed begins to decompose. Only when it loses its form, its structure, its perfection, only then do the roots break out and it is transformed into a complete new entity, a sprouting sapling tree, vegetation. It had to decompose first in order for it to grow. My friends, sometimes when we are prepared to let go of our ego, to let go of our not necessary pride, then, my friends, then we are truly able to sprout forth like vegetation, to grow, to take the Torah, internalize the Torah, and have ownership of the Torah. That doesn't mean to say that a person shouldn't have self-esteem. Self-esteem is critical for the makeup of each individual. You know, when in the third book of the Torah, it's Vayikra, and God called Moses. There's a little aleph. Moses, he knew that God was calling him. He had self-esteem. But you know what? He realized that if someone would have had all the opportunities he had in his life, then they would be far superior. If you look at Divrei Hayomim, if you look in the book of Chronicles, and it speaks about Adam, there's not a little aleph. There is a huge aleph when it speaks about Adam. Because sometimes a person needs to make a statement that we're not just in this world meandering. We're not just in this world without a purpose, without a sense of being. Rather, we are a big aleph. And that's what we explain this whole process of counting the Omer is about. We begin counting the Omer as being subservient. As we said, we begin with barley, low, animal food, fodder. And as we grow, as we express ourselves, as we become more refined and better individuals, then on Shavuos, it's not barley anymore, the sacrifice. It's 2 loaves of bread. We have self-esteem. We feel good about ourselves. Do you know why, sadly, addiction can destroy an individual? Because that individual doesn't feel good about themselves. The Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad rabbi, he had followers who said, "You want me to do a sin? I am a follower, I am a student of the first Chabad rabbi. How could I possibly do a sin?" That's self-esteem, that's healthy. You want me to destroy my life with stupid alcohol and drugs? Are you crazy? I have so much to live for. That's a big aleph, that's a good thing. But don't be haughty. Realize that you're in the desert, but you can grow and you will grow because you are a receptacle for blessings. I want to share with you a Talmudic passage. This Talmudic passage speaks about a great rabbi, one of the towering sages in Israel. His name was Rabbi Areyah. Now, Rabbi Areyah, his rabbis had passed away, and he was in great need of mentorship, of a sage, of a scholar, of someone who could guide him in his learning and in his piety. There was the great rabbi in Babylonia, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Areyah, he grew up in Babylonia, and he wanted to go to Israel, where Rabbi Yochanan lived in Israel. So, Rabbi Areyah, he embarked on this mission, and what he did was, it says in the Talmud, as he traveled and he went to a different academy, a different yeshiva, he was able to learn and to prosper in his Talmudic wisdom. Finally, he got to Israel, and there he was so excited, he didn't even wait for the ferry. He risked his life, and he walked across a flimsy little bridge. That's how excited he was. And someone screamed at him, "Impulsive, silly man, what are you doing?" And Rabbi Areyah said, "Are you kidding? Moses and Aaron, the greatest Jews that ever lived, they didn't make it to Israel, and I'm going to wait for a ferry?" Rabbi Areyah went and studied at the feet of Rabbi Yochanan, and he became an exalted sage. But I want to tell you something which is very strange. Something which seemingly doesn't even make sense. Seemingly. Before Rabbi Yochanan left Babylonia to go to Israel, what did he do? He fasted for 100 days. How could he possibly fast for 100 days? Why? You know what the Talmud says he fasted because he wanted to forget what he had learned in Babylonia so that he could be a vessel for the Torah of Israel. How do we understand that? You fast to forget Torah? It's a sin to forget Torah. But Reb Zera, he fasted for 100 days since the Talmud in Bava Metzia. How could he do that? The Rebbe explains that Reb Zera, his name Zeira, means small in Aramaic. He wanted to grow. If you want to grow, just like the seed has to decompose, it has to give up its existence and become a new entity, you need to become a higher being. You have to go through a process of fasting. Obviously, he didn't want to forget the Torah. He wanted to forget the methodology that he had learned in Babylonia of questions and answers, and Israel was on a higher level. Rabbi Yochanan was the one who wrote the Jerusalem Talmud. That was Rabbi Yochanan's contribution to the world. Can you imagine? In order for someone who was coming from Babylonia to ascend to the wisdom, to the piety, to the scholarship of Israel, he needed to let go. He needed to decompose. He needed to be a desert, to be a vehicle for self-growth and self-introspection. My friends, this is very profound, very profound. Jerry Stiller, Yosef Yitzchak, the son of Belville, recently passed away. Jerry told me, and he wrote a book, and in the book, he speaks about letting go. You know when he could ride his bike? When he let go. When a person doesn't demand certain things, when a person feels that they can be an actor and they can just be themselves and there's no need to assert themselves again and again, let go. When you let go, when the seed decomposes, when you realize that you're lacking, when you realize that, hey, there's more to the world than just me, that I'm a desert and I need to grow and I can't be so obsessed with my greatness and my brilliance. When you leave room for God, when you fast for 100 days, then you're in a position to truly flourish and grow and become a new entity as Reb Zera did. I want to share with you something unbelievable. I want to share with you something which is fascinating, and we are going to answer the question, what we can learn, the lessons of the coronavirus, but we need an understanding first. We have to delve into this concept. There, in the Torah, in Tanakh, there we have a tradition. Now, obviously in the Torah, there are no vowels. When someone takes up the Torah and reads the Torah, we hope when we pray it won't be too long, we'll be back together in good health and happiness, reading the Torah in the synagogue, in the shul. When that happens, there are no vowels. And that's why it's a difficult task for the Baal Korah to read properly, accurately. Sometimes, in our tradition, there's a kri and a ksiv. What does that mean? The word is written a certain way, but we read it another way. My friends, if you turn to the 100th Psalm of David, Mizmor L'Seder, that we give thanksgiving to God, do you know what it says there? It says there, now you just have to know two Hebrew words. Loi means no. That's when you say loi with an aleph. The same word is pronounced loi with a vav, and that means to him. So you have a word loi with an aleph, means no, and the same word means to him. It's written in the Torah one way, loi with an aleph, But, in fact, we read it, loy with a vav. So the Rebbe dwells at this. It goes back all the way to the Tzemach Tzedek. And the Frierdiker Rebbe brings it down. But what does it mean? What does it mean? Well, you read it with an aleph. I mean, it's written with an aleph, but you read it with a vav. What is this? Semantics? What's going on? What lesson can we learn from this? Comes along the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says, the more you are not full of yourself, the more you are loy with an aleph, the more you refuse to be engrossed in your greatness, the more you leave room for self-growth, the more you are able to let God into the equation. The more you let go, like Jerry Stiller said, you want to know how you ride a bike? When you let go. When you realize that it's not only about you, that you're not on cruise control, that no matter how great you are somewhat limited. When you make yourself a receptacle for blessings, when you say loy with an aleph, don't be ingratiated with yourself. Have some humility. Realize that you're a desert, that you can grow, that you will grow. But hey, I'm not perfect. That's when the Torah says. That's when the Torah says, loy with the vav, to him, to God you belong. When you let go of your ego, that's when God can have ownership of you. Unbelievable. No matter how great a person is, they are finite. The more you let go of your being, of your haughtiness, the more the seed allows itself to decompose. That's how the seed becomes not a dead seed, but a flourishing plant, vegetation. Loy with an aleph. When you say no to ego, that's when we are learning loy with a vav. You belong to Hashem, to God. Unbelievable. And when do we say this? We say this in Mizmor L'Seder in the 100th Psalm. Gratitude, joy. You know who's happy? Humble people are happy. You know who's depressed? Arrogant people are depressed. Why? Counterintuitive. I would think that someone who's happy is an arrogant person. He's arrogant. He's full of himself. Of course he's happy. And someone who is depressed, that's a humble person. Why is that the opposite? What's going on? The Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad rabbi, explains in Tanya. When you are humble, you realize that everything you have, the blessings you are given, it's not because you're great, it's because God gave it to you. You are the beneficiary of God's kindness. Therefore, you're happy. But when you're arrogant, whatever you have will never do. I need more. I deserve more. That good for nothing doesn't appreciate and understand who and what I am. No, says the Torah. The Torah says, loy with an aleph. Forget about yourself. Let go. Let go. And when you let go, and you're not awkward because it's all about me, that's when you can rejoice, and that's when you will be a receptacle for godly blessings. This theme is a continuation of what happened last week in the Torah portion. Possessions are important. Our role and our mission is to make the world holy, to take the world around us and to imbue within it holiness, spirituality, and meaning. That's our mission. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, the prince, the one who authored the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, before he passed away, he picked up his 10 fingers and he said, God, talking about? It says that he had the greatest luxuries, the most exotic fruit on his table. How can Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi say this? And Tosfos answers, he had it on the table, but he didn't eat it. My friends, can I tell you the Hasidic answer? The Hasidic answer is he had it on his table, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Judah the prince, and he ate it. So how can he say these 10 fingers never benefited from this food? Explains the Hasidic philosophy. My friends, when he ate it, he didn't eat it for the thrill, for the cheap thrill of the food, for his taste buds to be aroused. He ate it to make the food a delicacy and the exotic dish to imbue within it a sense of spirituality. Being Jewish, living in the physical world, is not a dichotomy. Being Jewish is to take spirituality and bring it to the world. But in order to do that, you have to be a receptacle. In order to do that, you have to make room for God. And that's why the Torah portion always, the prerequisite before you receive the Torah, is to read about the desert, to be humble, to realize that we have improvement, that we have a way to go. And when we let go of our ego, that's when we can receive the Torah. And that's when the seed decomposes. That's when the seed can grow into a brand new entity, a flourishing tree, vegetation, growth. Now, last week, in the Torah portion, it speaks about the concept of Jubilee. Jubilee is an amazing thing. Jubilee is that different properties revert to their original owner. For whatever happens, people came on hard times, sad, but they had to sell their field, their house. But at the end of 49 years, the 50th year came, you get another chance. It comes back to you and your family. Great. My friends, there is one exception. You know what the exception is? You won't believe this. The one exception is if you have a house in a walled city. That house in the walled city, once it is sold, the individual has 1 year to redeem it. If he doesn't redeem it, it is gone. There are different explanations why. Some people say because it's a walled city, people who live there have to be familiarized with the comings and goings with the street, because otherwise it is very vulnerable to attack. There are different opinions why, but that's the reality. If you look in the Torah portion, and when it speaks about this walled city, the only exception to the Jubilee, the house in the walled city is sold after 1 year. It does not come back to the home, to the homeowner, to the family. Do you know what the Torah says? You're not going to believe this. It speaks about loy chayma, the same word. You can read loy chayma with an aleph, and you can also read it with a vav. Why would the Torah, which is known to be so precise, not to be misleading, not for a person to have the wrong idea, why would the Torah even want to have a Kriyan Eksiv, a way it's written with a aleph, but it's read with a vav? Loy with an aleph means there is no wall. Loy with a vav means to him is a wall. Why does the Torah have to write this law in such an ambiguous way? And my friends, the answer is, a person could think that with their business prowess, with their penetrating mind, they are finally a possession that the Yovel cannot take away. A person can believe that they have built an empire. They have built a powerful company. It was their hard work. It is their being, and nothing can outsmart the Yovel. It's written loy with an aleph, but it's really loy with a vav. We can't think for a second that the edifices that we build, that the great structures we create, they are permanent. They are real. They can never, ever crumble. My friends, comes along the Torah, and the Torah says even the one example you have of loy with an aleph, of the walled city, you think that Yovel can't trump your possessions? Yes, it can. Think again. Don't be so sure of yourself. Make room for Hashem. Make room for God. Realize, appreciate that nothing is for sure. Because we are mortal, we are finite, puny mankind. We are limited because we are human beings who are limited. Do you know what the lesson is? The lesson is amazing. You have the world. You have America. America is the superpower of the world. You have financial strength. You have technological know-how. You have military might. And what is able to paralyze our society? What is able to take the world and turn it upside down on its head, where everyone, it doesn't matter what your profession is literally doing triage, trying to fight an invisible, tiny, minuscule, little virus. You can't even see it with the naked eye. Can you believe it? This is crazy. The greatest country, the most powerful resources, the greatest minds, and this little tiny microscopic virus is beating us. This is sad, this is painful, but it's true. Don't be obsessed with your might, with your brilliance, with your gifts. Understand that no matter how smart you are, no matter how gifted you are, please understand that we are limited. That, 49 years you can work hard. You can build a powerful company. But ultimately realize that there is a stronger, a more firm entity called God. The coronavirus has taught mankind to be humble. It's difficult. It's painful. But it is the truth. I want to share with you a Talmudic passage, an amazing Talmudic passage. A Talmudic passage which, quite frankly, boggles the mind. It is from Masechta Sukkah, the tractate of Sukkah. And it's about King Solomon, the smartest man that ever lived. Solomon, who ascended to the throne when he was a young boy. He played all the strategies right. He was catapulted into power. There was no wars during his time. He was brilliant. this Talmudic passage, and you, my friends, won't believe it. Here we go. The Talmud in Masechta Sukkah. Hanim tarti kushay dahave kaime kame shlema ali chayref ba'achia b'nei. There were two individuals who used to attend to King Solomon. They were Eliachor and Achia, the sons of Shisha, the scribes to King Solomon. One day, King Solomon saw that the angel of death was downcast. Solomon said to the angel of death, "Why are you downcast?" The angel of death answered them, "Because these two individuals who sit here are demanded of me by heaven, and I haven't been able to snatch these two souls back." So what happened? Upon hearing this, King Solomon, hoping to arrange their escape from death, handed them over and sent them to the town of Luz. According to Jewish tradition, at the time of Solomon, this city of Luz, no one would perish, no one would die. But when these two individuals reached the gates of the town of Luz, the angel of death was waiting for them, and they died before entering the city. Okay. The following day, King Solomon saw the angel of death was happy. He said to him, Solomon said to the angel of death, "Why are you happy?" He said, answered back to him, to the very place where they were demanded of me, there did you send them. Do you realize what happened? The angel of death didn't know what to do, because he was only allowed to take these two individuals to kill them when they were at the gates of the city of Luz. And he had no idea, how am I going to accomplish this? How am I going to get these two men to the city of Luz? Now, King Solomon didn't, God forbid, want anything to harm his two attendants. But you know, he, the smartest man of all, thought that he had a plan. He thought that I'm going to save their life and they're going to live forever. This is King Solomon speaking. The one who built the temple. The one who understood the language of animals. King Solomon, the smartest man in the history of the world. And he was trying to outsmart the angel of death. Little did he know that he was actually, sadly, tragically helping and doing the very opposite. My friends, the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe was part of the Jewish community during Warsaw, when Warsaw was bombarded by the Nazis. There were bombs going off everywhere. The sixth Rebbe was composed. He wasn't scared. And someone came up to him and he said, "Rebbe, why aren't you scared? You're human. Have you no emotion? Have you no fear?" And the sixth Rebbe told this individual, this good, concerned individual, every bullet has an address. Of course we don't put our life in danger, but we have to realize that every bullet has an address, that we, under the guidelines of science and medical professionals, have to follow a healthy existence. We don't want to put our life in danger. But ultimately, if we do what we're supposed to, we have to know that every single bullet has an address. That if God wants me to live, I will live. God wants me to be responsible, then I have to be responsible. But to worry, to fret, to be paralyzed by fear, that is not an alternative. My friends, the coronavirus teaches us humility. You want to get the Torah. You want to become God's people, and you are God's people. Guess what? Make room for Hashem. Make room for God. Loy with an aleph. When you say no to your ego, when you say no to your selfishness, then you may say yes to loy with a vav, to Him, to God. Then you realize there's only so much you can do. And the rest is ultimately in God's hands. And I pray that each and every one of us should be blessed with good health, with happiness, that no one should ever have any sorrow, any mourning, any discomfort. No one. I want to share with you one thought, and it's so powerful. And we mentioned yardside at the beginning of the class, and I want to share with you this thought. I want you to think about it, because this thought says so much. Shavuos is coming, my friends, and Shavuos, it's an ancient custom to put trees in the synagogue. That's what we do. But you want to know something? Shavuos is the time of Bikurim, the picking of the first fruits. So if anything, what should we do in Shavuos? We should eat fruits. But instead, we put the trees in the synagogue. Strange. But I'll tell you what's even more strange. Tu B'Shvat is the new year of the trees. What do we do on Tu B'Shvat? I'll tell you what we do. We eat fruits. 7 fruits of Israel. Wait. What's going on over here? When it comes to Shavuos, we put the trees in the synagogue and we eat the fruit. And we don't eat the fruit, but we put the trees in the synagogue. But Shavuos, you told me, is the time of the fruit. So we should eat the fruit on Shavuos. And on Tu B'Shvat, the new year of the trees, that's when we should put the trees in the synagogue, not eat fruit. What's going on? The explanation is so beautiful. The Hasidic explanation is, when you want to celebrate fruit, when you want to celebrate a child, you think that child just came from nowhere. Look at his parents. Look how they raised him. Look at the love, the attention to detail. They raised the mensch, the greatest tribute fruit can have is to say, hey, that fruit came from a tree. And therefore on Shavuos, when it's the festival of harvesting the fruit, that's when we put the trees in the synagogue. When it comes to Tu B'Shvat, Tu B'Shvat is the new year for the trees. You want to know if you have good trees? Then look at its fruit. Look what it produced. Look what it left behind in the world. Look at its legacy. Rabbi Yochanan, we spoke about how Reb Zera left Babylonia and went on a long journey all the way to Israel, to Rabbi Yochanan. Reb Yochanan buried painfully 10 sons. Reb Yochanan was the one who gave us the blessing in Birchas HaTorah. Every day when we study Torah, we make a blessing. And it speaks about their making Torah sweet for our children, our descendants. And if you don't have physical descendants, then you have spiritual descendants. As it says in this week's Torah portion, the children of Aaron. And it says they're also the children of Moshe. So Rabbi Yochanan, the same same rabbi says, they're the children of Moshe, even though we only list the children of Aaron. Because if you teach someone Torah, you are their father. My friends, when we speak about Shavuos, we speak about fruit. Remember our parents, remember the trees we come from. And when you want to know, after 120, when we go up to heaven, and the tribunal says, what did you accomplish? And you say, look at my students, the children of Moshe and Aaron, even though they're the children of Aaron, because Moshe taught them Torah. Look at your kids. Look at the boys. Look at the girls. Look at the Enakla. Look at the grandchildren. Look what you left the world so much better than you came in. This is our mission. This is our passion. That Hashem, God, should give us humility. That we should realize that each and every one of us is not just a father making an impression, a mother making an impression on the next generation, but we are also fruit. We are also the children, because it doesn't matter how old you are, we are the next link. And we have a treasured legacy to give the next generation. We are fruit, we are trees, and we are God's kindlach, and Hashem should have rachmanas. God should have mercy. Please, anyone who asks me to say Yizkor for their parents, even though synagogues are closed for Shavuos, it's a time of Yizkor, I will happily come, like I did on Pesach, and I will clutch the Sefer Torah, and I will say the prayers for you. Hashem should give you blessings. Hashem should give everyone revealed good. That there should be no more pain. There should be no more suffering. And although we can learn humility from the coronavirus, God, take your virus back. We want a happy, normal world. A world where we can hug and embrace our friends and our loved ones. We want a world where people are celebrating happy occasions, not burying those around them. May God answer all our requests and bless us, and the greatest blessing of all, the coming of Mashiach very, very soon. Amen. Thank you.